There he is.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Angelo.
How are you?
Well, good to see you.
Nice to see you. How are things at the mountain?
Great.
Yeah,
Really good.
I bet they are.
They've opened up all this new terrain
Oh, yeah. Way over on the far side.
way over beyond Bucksaw Chair.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's great.
Fabulous.
Good snow.
Is it
Hi,
crowded?
Mom. Hey, Mom. It was, no, not during the week. If you can avoid skiing on the weekends and ski in the week, it's a pretty good deal.
Consider meal.
Yeah.
Did you have the little great grandchild with you?
Not on this trip.
You.
Yeah, that's to come.
Yeah.
The older one, the
On
older
ski.
grandchild is
No,
skiing.
that's what I mean. That
Yeah,
was-
he wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion last year about getting him the equipment, and he was only 2. So I said, that is such a waste of time and money.
And watch their
He'll
knees.
be out of it in half the
And-
season.
Watch
and
their-
Well, they rented it,
Oh, there you
and
go.
they can swap it in every year. But
Yeah.
anyway, I was saying it was a bad idea. Of course, I was proven wrong. The little boy was skiing fine.
Because they always say, the doctors always used to say, look out for their knees at 2. But most of them go down between their legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Okay, so Susanna asked me to do this through Sam, or Sam through Susanna, and
They're blaming each other.
yeah, I thought the first thing I'd say
Can I
is
give you one
if
of
you
these
all
just to
can
put up
remember
somewhere?
why and how
For the
you
general
started
public.
riding or driving. So I went back to my memory, and my family and I moved over from England before World War II, where we bought 5 daughters, 5 Labradors, and 5 ponies. So we never got moved again. But anyway, one of them was a pony called Peter the Pony. He was a pony. He was about 13 hands. Daddy had bought him off the streets in Liverpool, cart, pony and all, from a monger. And I said, I learned to drive on. I don't remember when I started. And he was great, but when he didn't want to go someplace, and we were in a 2-wheel cart, he'd back up. Just back up, back up, back up.
Oh, great.
So we had all learned how to back him through a gate or back him here or there, whatever. So I went from that pony to a riding pony, and then fast forward 10 years or whatever, my father missed having any ponies on the farm anymore, so we bought 2 Welsh ponies from the Welsh breeder in South Carolina for the sister combination. Susanna knew them front. They used to come up here actually and be with Ann Gutschel in the summer.
Huh.
There was 2 little Welsh ponies, Gallant and Springtime, and they both drove. So when we moved up from Millis to here, Susanna introduced me to Holly and Nat Pulsifer. I'd gone to school with him, 4th grade. And so they got me going more and got me pair driving. So then Charlie thought, ooh, this looks like fun. So he had a big old chestnut horse that Susanna tried out for him that he was riding and hunting. So he broke him to drive, Flip. And he had a beautiful Kentucky breaking cart that he drove. And then I started seriously driving the pony pair, and he thought that looked like fun. So we took Chips Connemara, who was, I guess, 13, and I had a Morgan mare at that point, and we put them together. So then he was a great, great friend of Dr. Tebow's, and so Tebow called him up one night and was furious, just furious at Cirilla. I am so angry, I'm so angry. Why, Tebow? Well, she just went down and looked at the most wonderful horses in Connecticut, and she didn't buy them. And so Charlie said, why? And he said, well, they're only 14.3. And Charlie said, well, your horses are 16 hands. So that would quite make sense, said you. So he made Charlie go down and look at this pair. So we went down to northeastern Connecticut someplace. And they were 4 and 5 years old, Sassy and Nita. They drove. They had 2 speeds, stop and go. Because the man used to like to go on Sundays from his house to somebody else's house and have lunch, or go to a pub, or, go wherever. So we bought the pair. We took them on a 2-week trial, which the man had never heard of, and we didn't pay him anything beforehand, and so but we ended up keeping them. And we really didn't know what we were doing. I mean, I used to drive the ponies, but we didn't know which way the rein, how you really tighten the reins. So Deirdre Perry helped us a lot. And then fast forward again.
So those were the Appaloosas?
Those were
then?
the Appies.
Huh.
Yeah, the spots. And they were full brother and sister. And then we did buy their sister. She was not spotted. She was gray, had spots on her rear. Her name was Arrow. And we bought her because we needed a spare. I guess we were starting to compete even then, or I don't remember. So in I think it was 80, 81, something, we bought them in 80. So in 1983, there was a championship down in New Jersey, and we went and we were 5th or something. So that year they were having a class in Madison Square Garden for the first year driving class, just to explain what combined driving was. So it was a Combs course. So Charlie, because he was 5th, so it was top 5. And before we left, Deirdre got us all organized with gloves and aprons. We didn't know what we were doing. Thank God, because 3 out of the 5 pairs that competed in New Jersey ended up being the ones that go into the garden. Bill Lauer, Deirdre, and Charlie. So we all went in and we drove around and did whatever, and had to leave New York City about 11 o'clock, which was unbelievable. And getting the horses up and down the 3 flights of, well, it's a ramp, but where the stable was as to where the garden is. So then after that, the myopia driving event was up here, but also there was more competitions in Connecticut and New Jersey. So in 1983, Charlie won the U.S. championships with those 2 horses in New Jersey. And so the next year there was going to be an international event like there is today. But they couldn't call it a world event because it's not a recognized Olympic sport. And so you have to be careful how you name these things, I guess, politically. So when we won that, then we got chosen to go and represent the United States in Italy for this first championship. And so the USET we had Swiss horses. There used to be a guy that came over here who was a magnificent photographer, having a senior moment. And he also wrote, and he arranged for us to stay at his brother's barn in Germany someplace, I don't know where, in Switzerland, I don't know where we were, outside of, we were outside of Geneva, I guess. So we trained for 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
With strange horses?
With strange horses.
Wow.
And
Horses or ponies?
we had, no horses, big horses, big ones. They were Dutch warm bloods or something. And there was a spare, and we didn't speak Schweizerdeutsch, and nobody really spoke English except the brother who came occasionally. And so we kept driving this one pair, and Fritz said, just drive these 2. That was the brother who was. And Charlie said, I've got to throw the spare in there at some point. I've got to know what the spare drives like, whether, who it is. Or looked totally different, moved totally different, but it was the same size. And so we took all 3 of them. We trucked down to Rome, which was an interesting trip, took quite a while. And got there, and sure enough, we did the dressage, and then I don't remember what happened, but one of the actual pair couldn't do the cross country. Came up lame, did something. So we had to throw the spare in. And it was really interesting because these 2 horses were put together and they knew each other, but they had not really worked together a lot. So Charlie did the best he could, and Fritz is on the back, and every time there was a hill, Fritz would jump off an uphill. He would jump off and run up the hill because the spare wasn't as fit as the others were. So there was, this concern. Anyway, we ended up 11th out of 25. So that was okay. And there was a British team there that the Duke had sent over, and he won. So they were selected to have the first actual championship at Windsor Park the next year during the Windsor Horse Show. So with the British chef de keep and Charlie had worked together because Charlie was his own chef de keep. And so this guy invited Charlie to come to Windsor next year and compete. And it wasn't a championship, it was just to go to Windsor Horse Show. So we accepted, and we went to the Appy people. There were 2 Appy groups at that time, and got funding, so so we could go. And at the last minute, one of them dropped out. So we decided we'd go anyway, and we were able to put enough together to go. So we went over. I flew with the horses. So we had Sassy and Nita, the pair, and then the sister. Oh, was the sister the spare? Yeah, the sister's a spare. She actually was only 14, 1 3/4, 14 2.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So, and the owners in Connecticut used to swear she was a horse. Well, I didn't matter how you measured her. She strided, her stride was shorter, obviously, but they all got along. So we went Flying Tiger. I had, you may have known a gal called Robin Ash, who by some ways along the line had been in this area. Was she with you, Robin? I can't remember who she was with. Anyway, she was helping us. So Robin and I flew over Flying Tiger, and we got to Heathrow. It was a 6-hour flight over, whatever. We got to Heathrow. We get in the van, and the guy that's over there that's helping us on that side says, "You can't leave the airport." And we said, "Why not?"
Quarantine.
And he said, "Well, the British and the Americans right now are fighting over mares versus stallions of who can come into the country and who can't and whatever. So they're using you as an example right now." And I said, "My horses have been standing in a van for 6 hours, more than that, because we had to, do New York." And so we stood on that tarmac for 6 hours until finally, I don't know how they did it. Somebody called the embassy here or there. So we finally got to our stable, which was right outside of Windsor Park. And somebody had found us a nice family where we stayed. So Robin and I trained them Charlie was still working. So Robin and I trained them for a week or 10 days. And then Charlie came over, and Chip came over. Chip was Charlie's groom, thank God. And a damn good groom. He had been in England for a couple of summers working for some of the four-in-hand drivers. So he really knew the game, and he knew, just what's what. So Chip arrived, Charlie arrived, and we drove Windsor. And when we were in Italy, there was an English gal who was married to a Swiss man. And so they were invited to come too because she was British. So we went before Windsor, we went to an event ahead of time. And we were talking to some driving people, and Charlie said to them, "Well, how do I behave? What do I do?" And they said, "Well, just don't win." Charlie said, "Well, I have no problems with that. I'm not having any plans at all to win." And Chip wasn't there yet, so it was Robin that was on the back of the cab. So Nita, the mare, tied up before we left to drive down to that part of England and Brighton. And so we used her in a dressage, but the vet said you cannot use her in cross country if you plan to drive Windsor. So we put Arrow in. So Arrow went into the So Arrow went into the cross country, and of course her stride was totally different. So she kept breaking. So in those days you had a trot section, kind of a warm up. You had a kilometer walk. You had what's equivalent to the steeplechase, which was a 5 kilometer as fast as you could go. Another walk, the timed walks, and then the section with all the hazards. So she did terribly in the walk because she wanted to jog all the time. So anyway, we come through that, and we're getting ready to go into the cones on Sunday, and the guy who was in first place had 5 cones on it. So we thought, this is perfect. We're not gonna win. We're gonna come second, that'd be fine, just what we've been told to do. And this guy actually was a nephew of the Queen's, driving the Queen's horse and 2 of the Queen's horses. And so Charlie goes in, goes clean as he always did, and except at Windsor. And so then this guy goes in, and balls are bouncing off the cones. 7, he dropped 7. To the point that I went up to the gate and said, are you sure you all have measured?
Yeah.
Because in those days, each carriage was different. After that, we had to get the same. Those days, your carriage got measured, and then they added 3 inches. So that was your clearance, was 3 inches. So they said, yes, it was absolutely correct. He doesn't know how to drive cones. So we ended up winning Brighton, which wasn't our plan. So then when we go into Windsor, now that everybody's watching us, the other competitors, so he did all right. He never did well in dressage because, not you must feel, Susanna, what was dressage? Well, we grew up riding. You got on a horse, you went out, you came back, you took care of your horse or pony, and you put it away. What is dressage? So Charlie always did terribly in it. But we did learn to do it. So anyway, we got to Windsor, and Heiner Merck, who was married to the English girl, who was Swiss, who was invited to come. He and Charlie, we'd all become really good friends with them because none of us spoke Italian when we were at that competition. So we ended up.
Did you get your mare back from the?
Oh yeah, she came back. She rallied back. She was on her healing, but he just didn't want her to do cross country. The vet didn't want her to do cross country. I don't know what she tied up with. I can't remember. She had something. And so dressage went okay, and then the cross country, I don't know if they still do it, but they do a countdown, 10, 9, 8, go at 1. Well, Nita, the mare, knew how to count. Because at one, if Charlie didn't have tight on her, she was out the gate. So he held her, and as they started, something broke on the harness. So he started to pull up, and that's the trot section. And he yelled at Chip, no! Oh, Chip yelled at him, don't stop, Dad, I'm out. And so Chip ran up alongside, was able to fix his piece of harness on the collar as Charlie's still driving. And away they went, and they did very well in the cross country. I don't remember now, but so going into the cones on Sunday, he and Heiner, I'm not sure that Charlie wasn't in the lead, but if not, they were almost tied, because if Charlie was clean, I think if Charlie was clean in the cones, we were going to have a drive off. But to make a long story short, Nita was in her stubborn mood. As she went through one of the cones, she kicked it. So we were second at Windsor, which was okay. Yeah, and then we went up to Brighton. We went up to Sandringham. Charlie went home to work. Chip and I went up, drove up through England and stayed a night on a farm that had stallions in it. And here we have 2 mares, but we didn't tell anybody. And then we did that event, and we were 3rd, so it was very respectable, and that was fabulous because the Duke drove there, and Prince Philip, and he was always a great follower, and he was a great team driver, and Chip had gotten to know his grooms and saved his grooms a couple of times when they got drunk.
Yeah.
And so Prince Philip knew Chip. When we were at Windsor, it was a funny story. When we were at Windsor, we were all cleaning harness like crazy. In those days, there was that was the other place how we won all the time. was the inspection beforehand. And they checked your
Presentation.
brass,
Oh.
they checked your collar to make sure. they checked it.
Presentation was
Yeah,
just
presentation.
painful.
And we always won
Yeah.
presentation. Charlie went to one competition, and there was an Englishman judging it, and he couldn't find one thing the matter with the horses or Chip or Charlie. He finally went up to Chip and turned down his collar. Thank God it was clean. And so he gave Charlie a 10, which is unheard of. And so we won presentation again. But so anyway, this one day at Windsor, Chip hadn't arrived yet.
Which is, I mean, to win presentation in England is
Pretty good.
really,
Yeah.
really hard to, like, that's really,
Pretty good.
Yeah.
you know.
They don't
amazing.
do it anymore now. They do in the
Yeah.
I believe in the driving competitions now. I think they do it on the go.
Yeah.
But this was a thing that was done
I know.
10 minutes before you went in.
Yeah.
And it was it was ridiculous the amount of time you had to spend. And there'd be 3 or 4 of us cleaning brass, you know, the harness, the carriage, whatever. As Charlie was wandering around talking to people. So one day when he was wandering, we were stabled at Windsor, in the Windsor Castle stables, and he was talking to the Duke, and Charlie had his back to the gate, and the Duke was looking down over the hill, and he turned to Charlie and said, "Excuse me, I just got to say hello, here comes an old friend of mine." So Charlie turns around and looks at him, it's Chip,
Oh, that's great.
coming in the door gate with his knapsack over his back.
Yeah.
And, you know, Chip goes, "Hi, sir, how are you?" And Chip, he said, "What are you doing to Chip?" And he said, "That's my dad you were talking to." And then, any of you remember, what was the name of the massage guy?
Jack Ma.
Jack Marr. So we took Jack Marr over with us. The team paid for us to go, and so the minute we got to the stable at Windsor, the Duke grabs Chip and says, "Chip, have you got that hand man with you?" Because the Duke always had such arthritis in his hands that he'd get Jack to work on his hands before he'd go into competition.
Yeah.
So then, after that, then we won the U.S. championships two other times, I guess.
With the pair still.
We're all still with a pair. And then it got to the point that he'd done it 3 times. Charlie always liked to sail. It's the same season. And if he was going to start competing again, he was going to have to get a whole 2 new horses. Sassanita were getting older. They'd done their thing. And to try and start with 2 new Abbeys, the Spartans aren't that easy to find. We had quite a few over the years. And so we decided, well, it would be fun to try a 4-in-hand. So then we did gather some other, I don't know where we found them. We found them different places. And so then we drove a 4-in-hand for 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years, I guess. And that was fun. That's mainly exhibition. We got to know a man called Frolic Weymouth, who was big horseman and big lover of life and a magnificent artist. And he drove a team there. He was in Wilmington and had a beautiful, beautiful farm. And he used to have a competition every spring. And Charlie actually had gone down to that with old Flip, the big chestnut horse. And then we'd gone with the pair. So he helped us. And they have a couple of things down there that they do in that country. One is over the winter tour, point to point. They have a carriage gathering, and the day before you go, Frolic invites whoever, and you go and drive the countryside. It's all DuPont land, and you go and drive the countryside. And then on Sunday, you're in your best attire, clean horses, clean harness, and you drive it winter tour in between the 3rd and 4th race or something. And then we sat up on a hill. Probably the most we ever had maybe were 8 coaches. And you've all prepared a picnic lunch to better the other guys, of course. And some people paid. We only had it once because our guys are so little, even with 4 of them. It's tough going to put too many people up on the coach because you have You had Charlie and me, and then 2 grooms, Chip and Disa. So you have room really for 2 more people. And so we did that a number of times, and then eventually the old pair had to be put down, and Charlie, we moved some out because he decided he was going to go back to sailing. So he did. He went. We went back to sailing, and the do you all he hunts. The hunt that's down there in Middleborough. He also plays polo. This young man.
Middleborough or
Middleburg or
Middleburg?
No, Middleborough, Mass.
Oh.
Oh, no, it's down Norfolk?
Nope, it's further out. He hunts with Norfolk, but he also, I think, and he
There was one down in Rehoboth, I remember.
Does
Yeah, I
he have the
think that's a-
chestnut polo ponies that he plays polo, hunts, and drives?
yes, his son's doing it now.
Oh, yeah,
I'm having a senior moment.
yeah, I remember.
Well, that's good, we're all seniors.
Ted,
Yeah,
Ted
Ayers,
his Ted, huh?
Walter Ayer.
Oh, Ted Ayer.
Yeah,
So we
Yeah.
sold our coaches and the coach and and the harness to Ted.
Huh.
Because at that time Walter was a young man,
yeah,
and actually Ted had done some work for us. Ted had restored his dad, and it's the type of thing that Walter does as well. The beautiful coach at Newport, the big famous whoever coach. That's not Rockefeller. Who is it? Whoever. And so he had it, and he does. And actually, Charlie and I went up to Mount Desert with him when he first started with the pair, Ted, and he had an Argentinian polo pony and a polo pony, and he had them driving them as a pair, and he didn't know what he was doing. He admitted, so he asked us to come with him, and so the first day we had to try and get the traces, even though he had it so this horse wasn't working at all, and he hadn't quite figured out how to adjust the trace and make them even. So we did that, and he had a useless girl with him. It was his girl at that time, but she was useless with the horses. But so we drove with Ted. I'm being recorded, aren't I? So we drove with Ted, and then he got 2 more, and they were polo ponies. They were hunted, and he drove them. And I don't know now about Walter, but
yeah, Walter's still at it.
Ted does
Yeah.
it. Ted does it.
I don't know if Walter's doing the carriages, but he's playing polo when he's hunting.
Yeah. Yeah, I stay in touch with him every so often because his dad was an incredible craftsperson. We did tables and carriages and he was a good driver once he knew what he was doing. He did a great job. And we had some fun drives with him. I actually went with him probably 5 or 6 years ago now. He was up at Mount Desert, and he asked me to come up. I was on the island of Maine. He asked me to come over, and if I'd like to come up and drive with him. Walter wasn't with us. There was another friend of his from Middleburg, and we did go up and drive. I went up and drove, and it was fun because it was our carriage and our harness, on these horses. So that was about the extent of it.
That's very good.
Yeah, it was years of fun. Charlie started off, so I started off with this little rotten pony, and Charlie started off, his father was master of something called White Marsh Valley Hunt. It's before Union. It was, Mrs. Hannum had Unionville, but it was those days.
So near Union.
Yeah, we were near White Marsh. So his dad was master of that for a long time, and so Charlie was out hunting at 4 or 5. He doesn't remember either. He just knew that he started as a little tyke. But he didn't know how to drive. I found a picture, I don't know where. I have a copy of it, of an article in the New York Tribune or Times or whatever that paper was, way back in 1927 or something. And there's a team of Morgan's going up Fifth Avenue for some parade, and it's my grandfather driving,
Oh,
Oh.
wow.
and I never knew that. I mean,
Wow.
I never even knew that he drove.
Where was the picture, in a newspaper
I can't
or a
remember.
book or?
I must have found it
The
somewhere.
Chronicle?
Sorry?
Would it be in the Chronicle?
That could have been, but, so I have it in a little frame, but I thought it was so interesting because I don't remember, I mean, growing up on Long Island, there was a family stable, but, my grandfather died when I was very young, quite young when he died, so, but there's obviously it was in the blood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the driving today is very different. I'm sure you all know, mainly because most of it, when we were doing it, was pretty much family and family. You know, there weren't a whole lot of hired people because that wasn't the way we did it. We just drove. I mean, if we did have Robin, and we did have another gal for a while after Robin left. But if we hadn't been for Chip, we probably wouldn't have done what we did because, you know, he was really the groom with Charlie. And then when Deesa came along, and with the team, you know, she knew what she was doing as well, so it made it much easier. But it was fun times.
So I don't know this, is driving still, are there still competitions and?
I think there are, yes, I think they're trying to scrape together teams. I don't know if the pairs are still, I do think the pair had a championship. But once again, you know, everything's gotten so much more expensive, and once Myopia stopped doing the driving event here, and there used to be one in Maine, that closed ahead of us. There used to be one in Connecticut for a couple of years, and that,
Where was that, in Pomfret? Or
no, it was in Nolandville, kind of northern, I don't remember, to be
Paul's
honest.
Village?
Huh?
Paul's Village? Or,
No, it was
Litchfield?
just a local farmer. He and his
uh,
couple of buddies got together and put together this competition. Oh, and then a guy called Will Davison had one up in Vermont, in, what's the most southern town in Vermont there, right? There's a college there.
Manchester?
No, come even further south.
Bennington? Bennington?
No, even, I'll think of it in a minute.
Myopia Driving Club still has an event at,
Sorry?
Myopia Driving Club has an event
Yeah.
every year.
But what we're doing is, I think what the club does is, they're not doing, are they still doing 3-phase? I don't think so.
No, it's
No,
No.
not so
Combined
much. It's
training.
like combined training a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not as big.
they
But
do a one day,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then
For
they do
singles
the,
and pairs, or?
the driving at, wherever it is.
There's a couple of pairs, I think.
Yeah, there were a couple
And
of
then,
pairs last
then
year.
in the driving, how many of you own minis? Do any of
They
you
have it at
a mini?
Appleton.
How
I
many
don't
what?
wanna hurt anybody's- A mini? I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
I have to.
There are a lot of people driving minis now, and that you have to change the whole. Well, just imagine a mini
Yeah.
can't do what a horse this size can do, and you're trying to run a competition. It was hard enough when we had a pony division
Yeah.
to shorten this and shorten that. So and we used to have it here. We'd come through you, Susanna. I have a wonderful picture of Charlie going through that water that's up at the end of your road here before the green gate. That pond, which I think is just weather-wise, there. And this is the competition, and we were a lot in Groton House.
There was a big one in Turner Hill back in the day, right? And there was some horse that flipped in the water obstacle there.
Probably.
I think I was with Chip when that happened. It was a
Oh, you're right, down in the
pair, or he
back.
could have even been a 4-in-hand, so there was
I
a
think
horse
it was-
under
Yes,
another
down
horse.
in the
Yeah.
back.
I think
Yeah.
that was Dutch of Mrs. Fury's, that horse Dutch, or it might have been like Dakota or somebody.
Right.
We had one that had a little bit of an oops over there one time, way back in the
Well,
day.
they lost a team of horses,
Yeah.
not in Connecticut, it was someplace, Pennsylvania maybe, where they were in I don't know what it was, a competition or what, but they were supposed to go into the water and take an immediate right. And who was ever at the team, driving the team, when he got in the water, he didn't pull his leaders around. And all a horse knows is sees water and wants to get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that it's going to be more shallow on the right than the left. And so this team swam out and got into deep water, and they lost the whole rig.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. So I remember this other thing, because we were all very conscious about,
Having a successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember we had a hazard right down here on your the dirt path that's on the bottom house side, I guess. And we had a hazard there, and a wonderful man from Pennsylvania, and he was driving his team, and his leaders were his hunters. And so the leaders came and they were supposed to curve around this obstacle, but the guys saw the fence right there and jumped it. So now he's got his leaders on one side, his wheelers on the other. So of course he had to unhook.
Yeah.
And that was the end of him for that day.
I took driving lessons, Lois, from somebody in New Hampshire. Do you know anybody? I don't even remember his name now, but I took driving lessons.
Yeah, he and his wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of children, and he had a pair
Oh.
that I was learning to drive. I had no idea what I was doing, but I wanted to take driving lessons. I thought it would be fun.
Well, not too far up in New Hampshire.
No.
Yeah, I can't remember. Do you remember his name? You probably don't. I know who you mean. He, we sent one of the Appies up to be trained by him.
Did you?
Yeah, one that quite often when we got the Appies, they didn't know how to drive. You just had to get a spot when you could get a spot.
Right.
And go with it. And I found one, and I went down to be a TD at an event. Oh, yeah, that was an event in Pennsylvania, maybe, or Virginia. I went down to be technical delegate, and I met a man there who was an artist. Actually, he's done some wonderful paintings for us, sketches. And he was working, and I was chatting with him. And I said to him, Lee, I said, we're looking, you gotta find me, look in the countryside now, please. We need another Appy. And he said, he always spoke, I'll keep my eyes open, Lois. And I said, okay, good. I think I've found something, Lois. So in those days, I don't even think we had cell phones. So I'm out there. He was starting section A, and I've been chatting with him, and then I was at the end doing whatever I had to do. And he left because everybody started on course. And he went to watch his nephew at a horse show. And so I get this message. Lee says he thinks he's found you a horse. So I said, well, could you please get the message back? Oh, it's being put in, he's in a trailer, and the horse that's next to him won't get in, is bucking and rearing, and this horse is standing very quietly. I think he'll do for you. So I said, well, could you please tell Lee I can't come? Could there any possibility that we could come and look at this horse later? And so that was arranged. They took him off the trailer or did whatever. And Liz Lauer, any of you remember Liz Lauer? Okay. Liz Eckerson, she was. She was down with Deirdre, I think. And so I said to her, Liz, would you mind coming and looking at this horse with me, getting on it and seeing what it's like? So we went over after we'd finished with the show. Liz said, I think he'll do fine. And I don't even remember which one it was now, but he came back, he did do fine. I guess it was Blackout. He wasn't they had varying degrees of spots.
I don't know, I helped you out a few times and Chip was like, blah, blah, and like, they all look the same.
Yeah.
There's a lot of spots going on here.
Yeah. And I saw, actually we had a young man competing who was from California. He had a wonderful spotted app that he'd gotten in California. And there's a picture of a leopard app, picture of a painting that actually Arabella Dane sent to me years ago. It's in France, the picture, and it says spotted app, and the painting is in the 17 or 1800s, and it looks exactly like our Sassy, exactly. So they were way back. And when we were at Windsor, when the Queen came around to give us our trophies, and she stopped and she started chatting with Charlie, and her escort's trying to move on, and she wanted to know about the spotted ones. And she said, you know, we have a team of spotted ponies. Charlie said, yes, madam, I do know that. And there was a young girl that used to, they were funny spots, so they were, excuse me, more like sections of black, like that, not actual spots. But, so they've been around for a long time, but not easy to find. So that's my story. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
That's a great story, Lois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really fun.
We
Do you have
were
any
looking at
news?
something, what were we looking at the other day? There was a lot of riders and people, and then way off on the side were her appies being driven.
Well, I brought the
That was
video.
the video.
I brought it to show her
Oh,
because she's never seen it,
good.
so I brought it on the
good.
computer. Yeah.
That's what.
Do you remember when you used to do the presentations over the Jumper Classic with the coach
Oh,
and
yes.
the forehand?
Yeah. Oh,
So
God, I'd forgotten about that.
yes, I have the videos from 19. I think it was. I don't know what the date was on it. Maybe 89, 90, somewhere.
91, 92, something like
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I have a video of it. So I brought it for you to see.
oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. I'll pull it
Yeah,
up on
and the
computer.
other thing, we used to drive through the countryside on the weekends when we had the team, and of course we'd leave from our house on Ashby Street, go through the park, and poor riders would come, you know, just scared to death, so, because it's so noisy. Even when we were driving the pair, it's really noisy. So there were a few people that we used to leave on the ground, I'm afraid, but we did used to go over most times when we had a team, and go up and drive, take Lily Rice out. Lily and Siege, Lily was mainly the one, Siege would, but, she loved to go out on the carriage with her.
Yeah.
And she had wonderful stories to tell.
You came out on Thanksgiving once too. I think.
Yeah.
One time
Yeah.
you guys would come out. It was really
Oh,
nice.
yeah, we used to go to Thanksgiving hunt, I guess, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
You did,
yeah. But I always loved going to Lily. Of course, she always had something yummy to eat, but besides that, she loved to go on the carriage. And if we drove her around, she'd give us the history of, you know, we didn't know anything because we didn't grow up here, like you guys, but, so it was fun to take her out.
Were any pictures up on the moon of the obstacles and everything? And all used
Yeah,
to
we
be up
did,
there?
yeah, we did have a couple up there. And Charlie had a runaway with the team,
I remember that.
one day over here at Ann's. They
Turned over or something, didn't it?
well, no, we came down, I don't know what you call it, but we came down off of, heading towards the drop jump in the woods kind of there. But we came down and were supposed to take a left. And we were going to, but, the leaders got through okay, but the wheelers, got into mud with the carriage.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the leaders took off, and that was
They broke
Nita.
the harness.
That was Nita and my little bear, who ended up being called Goddammit Bear by somebody I ran into. Well, he was in the team for a long time. Dr. Tebow found him in Florida, so we believed Tebow and had him sent up. And he was 14-1. We tried everything. Let his shoes, let his feet grow, feed him more, nothing. So he was always a leader, but he and Nita broke, and one of them was found on the moon, and I think Nita I think came back into Bradley Palmer, but I think that was the only time we had, thank God, an accident. Charlie had a couple when he was competing, but I think that was the only time that we were the team. But you know, you gotta respect
And
that.
let's follow.
Yeah, let's follow.
Right.
Yeah, that's where the competitions used to start. quite often. Oh, the few, in the beginning anyway, they did, but,
Okay, yeah, good.
yeah, and Deirdre helped us all.
You too.
She was quite amazing. And Holly too, but Deirdre really knew her stuff.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Fonz.
Well, that was great.
Wow.
Put it
Thank
here.
you.
I enjoyed it. I probably talked too much, but that's okay.
You're trying to find those videos?
I know, I have it, I just,
Yeah, we'll post this.
See you next week.
Yeah,
Take care, Fonz.
thanks Sam for organizing this.
Oh, it's your mom.
Yeah.
She had nothing to do with it.
That's it, those are great stories,
do all the
Lois.
work.
Yeah.
Three phase were around here, and the carriages were just so beautiful,
Yeah.
and it was so exciting and so much fun.
It was, you know, as I say, it was a lot of work, but we had people in those days. We had, you know, Pennsylvania, they came up from Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
Connecticut, we had a big turnout.
Mm-hmm.
And actually there was like a route, because we went down to these other competitions, you know,
Or go around and,
Yeah.
yeah,
because we were all aiming for the US championship.
mm-hmm, you had to qualify.
Well, you have to qualify if you're gonna try and go to Europe, but, just to compete for the US champ, and a guy called, you probably all know him, Larry Poulin, who was a big rider.
Yeah.
As well, he drove with, the first year we went to England, to, Sandringham, I guess, he was on our US team with a girl who had a team from New Jersey. And, she actually broke her fingers, on the way over on the airplane. Her horse started to do something and she had to hold him down or whatever, so she had a tough time.
Oh.
And Larry had, Margaret Gardner's horses. Yeah, he worked for Margaret Gardner at that point up in Maine. And then there was, well, Bill Lauer was on the team too.
Did Arabella do any of that stuff?
No,
I didn't think so.
no, she always rode. I don't think she ever drove. Although, one of the years we went to Newport with the team, I don't remember what the horse's name was, he's the leader, but, he blew his mind at Newport, the stop, go, got him. I mean, Newport's it's a pretty event, but it's tough on the horses. And, this horse colicked that night along with another horse.
Oh, that was-
So, you know, we had vets all over the place and people running back and forth and everything. And so when I brought him back to the farm, Charlie and I realized he wasn't gonna really, he was a riding pony as well, but he wasn't gonna be able to be in the team anymore. And so Arabella said, I'll take him. So she used to call him Spotty Pony, and not only did she drive him, but they rode him a lot. She used to
Yeah.
ride him, I think Natalie, well, Natalie would have been too old, but I don't know, people, young people, whoever she
Did
had.
she
to-
take him to New Hampshire and all
Yeah,
that?
that's right, they were living in New Hampshire at that time.
Oh, they still are.
Yeah, no, now they're not there, but the pony went there. There, Arabella and Nat moved to, Milwaukee, to a retirement place where she had lots and lots of friends. And I think they're hoping to come back to the farm this summer, I don't know,
Yeah, that's when I see them.
Yeah.
Up there.
I'm not sure.
She was gonna start a hunt up there.
Yeah, years ago,
She even cleared a trail over the hill and
yeah,
behind Meredith in that part of the world.
yeah.
And she threatened to make me the master of it.
Well, that would have been all,
We have a camp on Squam Lake.
that would have been all right.
See her quite a bit when she's there.
And her granddaughter Arabella had a horse that was down here. Whose barn was it in? Did you have it? Whose barn was that horse in? Oh, it may have been at Myopia for a while.
Yeah. I remember, was it his mother, I guess, who used to hunt with us way back in the old days. When they
Well, it
lived
wouldn't
in
have been her mother.
Essex.
Yeah.
No, I mean, his mother, yeah.
Yeah,
I
his
know.
mother.
I know, I hunted with her mother, her
Yeah.
father actually,
Yeah, down in Maryland.
down in Maryland.
Yeah.
But, no, she had quite an establishment up there.
Yeah.
And
She had goats and pigs and everything.
And flowers.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I mean, wasn't she chairman of the Garden Club of America
yeah.
or something
No,
like that?
she would never, she would, no, she did a lot, she judged a lot.
Oh, she's a judge,
Judge,
that's what it was.
yeah.
Lois, who was that guy that had I think they were chestnut, 4 horses that were all pulling the carriage over to Appleton, and then the next time he was hunting them. Who
That's-
was that guy?
That's, Ted Ayers.
Okay, cause I was on his carriage at one point, I don't know whether I was trying to do that judging bit, which was so nerve wracking, like 2 steps of a trot and you, ooh, bad. By the time I got finished, I couldn't tell.
Oh,
the
you
difference
won
between
somebody, a competition.
it. Yeah,
That would have been Ted.
Oh, were you on the carriage, checking all the
She was a referee.
referee? Yeah, exactly.
I
he
don't,
was so nice, this guy, whoever it was, and I was amazed that those horses did everything.
it may have been the man that I told you that ended up with his leaders, cause he was wonderful. He died as a very young man, but actually in a hunting accident, but, the ones I told you would jump the hazard down here on the path. I can't remember any of those people's names. Fox, the only one I remember.
Nothing ever happened, it was
Jack
just so
Seabrook.
amazing that they were so good at those
Yeah.
2 quite demanding things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think this air boy is amazing, that he's playing polo and driving. I don't know how much driving he's doing, but.
Have you been following Chester Weber at all?
Of who?
Chester Weber?
No.
Some of that is amazing. If you ever want to watch it driving, it's
Chester was never one of my favorites.
agreed. But watch some, go online and just watch some of it.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, the
Yeah.
talent. He has 2 or 3 teams that are just
Yeah.
phenomenal.
And I don't think he's,
Okay, this is.
I don't think that he's got a team now trying to go to the world champion. I know Tucker's quit, but,
Whatever he's been driving is amazing.
yeah. And the other one was, after Chester, was Jimmy Fairclough. The Faircloughs, John and Jimmy, they were both very not good drivers. Somebody said Jimmy had a team and was trying, I don't know what the US is doing, I've lost track of, them going overseas.
Yeah, I don't know who's.
And Lana
winning.
Wright? Lana Wright, was a really good driver. Ryder, Susanna, you knew, I
It's
can't
just
think
down, but
now.
I'm pretty sure.
But Lana came from Chesapeake City. Charlie and I, she used to run an event. She had a wonderful event. We did that a couple times. Her cousin was Donna Sharp,
I think I'm just
who was married to,
flunked video 101.
Plum. Oh my God, I grew up with him.
Well, apparently I think I flunked video 101.
Sorry?
I said I think I flunked video 101.
Oh,
For some reason it doesn't want to come up on the thing. I will definitely get it to you though.
I'd love to see
I was gonna give Chip a copy the other day and I forgot.
it.
What was the driving competition that we had with so many beautiful carriages came? What were we doing with that?
That was our myopia driving event.
Was it?
Yeah.
You remember that? Oh, they were just fabulous.
Or was it the coaching?
You had the
yeah.
coaching thing
Yeah, we had
too.
the coaching.
That was recently, the coaching thing that we ended up, we all started over at the at the schooling field.
Yeah,
Yeah, that, I don't
that
know,
was incredible.
yeah, that was great. I rode on the you rode on somebody's
I
carriage.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought the whole thing was terrifying.
Yeah,
And then when you had to be a referee and you had to figure out where they were actually driving or cantering or whatever the hell they were doing. And they were that woman that was at my school, 2 grades ahead of me, I was terrified of her there. And I had to judge her, holy shit, that was terrible.
who was that?
Hill? Somebody Hill?
Oh, Macy Hill.
Macy!
But she had
Macy!
ponies, she had Hackney ponies.
Yes!
Oh my God, that was another event, Millbrook. Oh, the Millbrook event
Millbrook.
was fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where the hell I was, but I've never been so
Well, she'd come
paralyzed
here.
in my life.
She and her cousin was, and they had a wonderful black groom called Pinky. Wonderful black man who was an incredible horseman. Yeah, Macy Hill and, the other gal drove ponies too. They both had hackneys. And Hopeton Kimball was another one that she drove hackneys with her husband Dick in the back, and he was as tall as Franz, and he's on the back of this little four-wheel carriage that she's driving. It was the funniest thing. He loved, I guess she had a pair, that's why he was there. And he loved it. He always had a great smile on his face, his knees all the way up on but yeah,
Did
Macy.
Deirdre drive a lot with, they were Holsteiners, weren't they? Did
Who?
she go? Deirdre Peary.
Hers were,
Holsteiners.
yeah, Holstein.
Yeah, and
They all had Indian names. All
They
of-
did.
well,
They were
most
all
so beautiful.
Apache,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
Indian tribes,
Yeah.
Yeah, she really.
except Dutch.
Dutch warmbloods.
No,
Oh.
except Dutch. You remember she bought Dutch from
Oh.
Immel at a cocktail party
No.
after one too many?
What you can say at a Christmas dessert party.
Exactly.
No, she did a really good job driving.
She used to bring them every morning down Rock Maple Avenue about 6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning
Clang, clang.
to the edge of the tree on my driveway, which must have been a certain distance that, that she was
Measuring.
and I just loved it because I was up with the babies and
Yep.
so I would watch them going by every morning. It was so much fun. They'd stop there and then go back again.
And you would have to jump off. She would never stop, as you wouldn't. You jump off the back of the carriage, run out in the middle of the road, stop the traffic.
Yeah.
And she continued
Right.
trotting all the way by, and then you have to run to catch her and jump back on the carriage. And there's no
Hey.
stopping.
No
No
stopping.
stopping.
You're on the watch.
Yeah, and if there was an obstacle or something in the middle of the path and you were trotting towards it, she would say, "Can you jump off and move that?" Well, from a very long distance, it might look like a stick. But as you were trying to beat the horses to it, because there was no stopping, and you got to it and it was a tree, and you were trying to get it out of the way of the middle of the path, and you're like, "What?" And it was a tree. Yeah, good times.
Yeah.
So,
You'll be happy to know that didn't change as she got older.
yes.
You just also had to pay attention to the oxygen tank and the Jack Russell.
Right.
Do you know that Jack Russell? Do you know? So you'll get a kick out of this. Do you remember Skittles?
Yes.
Her little Jack Russell.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Peary, as we all called her, would have two dogs come with us on the carriage. There was an Italian, a Whippet, Italian Greyhound. He was a Whippet. And this little Jack Russell Skittles was smaller than most Jack Russells, and
Tiny.
no matter where you went in the carriage, she'd watch my dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, well you're hanging on to begin with, and so her favorite thing to do, we were training, so she would go up the ski hills. So does everybody know where the ski hills were?
Mhm.
So there you are, on the back of the carriage. You're trying to hold on for dear life for yourself, and you're going up a ski hill. And you're not going that slow. And she would go, "Hold on to my dogs." Okay. So you know the part in the back of a marathon carriage, they call it the glove compartment?
Right.
You would
Well.
put Skittles in the glove compartment.
You put the jack in there.
Well, you're holding on. You've already got one dog and a hand to hold on to. Where are you going to hold the other dog? So I did, and she fit fine. Worked for me. And so off we went. And we came back down, and everything was okay. And we back through the field, back to Aquila Farm. And we pulled up, and you jumped off the carriage and got to their heads. And, that was that. And thank you so much for your help. And I'm going up to the house. Okay. And so, Mark would come out, whoever was there, and you'd unhook and take the harness off, and you'd roll the carriage away, and put everything away. About 2 hours later, she came back down walking. "Have you seen my other dog?" "No, but I'm sure I can find her." I forgot Skittles was still in the glove compartment of the carriage. But she was fine. She was sleeping away. She wasn't barking or anything. So yeah, she fit quite nicely.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
And then there
Very
was
un-Jack Russell type.
well that was true. And then there was the beat the ground incident. But let me say, if you learn something from Mrs. Peary, A, you learned it.
And B, you do it.
B, you did it. But she was probably one of the best horsewomen that you would learn something from.
Yeah.
Because it always had a reason, and it was really, really something worth learning. So
Yeah.
I'm new to the whole driving thing. When I first came on to the farm, Elsa Mosley and I were good friends, and she said, my friend has gotten hurt on the farm and we need somebody else. Would you consider coming and working? And I said, this was at the racetrack. And I said, oh, sure. She said, my mom's got some race horses and the woman that owns the farm has them. I said, sure. So we went out there, and I know you've probably heard this story, but so I came there with race horses. And then little by little you get dragged into the driving. There's no choice. So, you know, I learned how to put a harness on, all the things, and then you take turns on who's going to go in the back of the carriage for the day.
Right.
Sometimes you don't have a choice, and I was it, and she was going to do dressage in the dressage field, which was just behind the barn. And we go off, and I'm on the back of the carriage, and she had this one leader, it was Hopi. Do you remember Hopi?
I don't remember them all.
Beautiful mover, beautiful Holsteiner, but he had a habit of just sticking back from the other leader, just a little tiny bit, you know, and
Just enough.
just enough. And so she said, we're trotting, and when you trot on with full Holsteiners, you're trotting, you're moving, you're going. And so, you know, she says, as we're moving, she turns to me, gives me her driving whip, and says, jump off the carriage, and when I want you to stand in the middle, I'm going to make a circle around you, and when I go by, I want you to just,
Tap her up.
well, that's what I thought. I want you to hit Hopi, because he's really going to get us in trouble if he doesn't get up there. Okay. And so I did. I jumped off the carriage, and I had the whip, and I stood where she told me to stand. You know, when you're 17, 18, and this is very intimidating. So she came by me the first time, and I went tap, 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 tap on the horse. And she came by me the second time, and she pulled up that forehand, and I mean pulled up the forehand like we were in a reining show. And I just stood there wide-eyed, and she said, come here. And when Deirdre Peary said, come here, you started shaking in your boots, but you did. And she said, beat the ground. I said, excuse me, and she said, the whip in your hand, beat the ground. She said, and then she yelled, she scared you. And she said, hit the ground. And so I hit it. She said, you can do better than that, hit the ground. And now she's got me scared. So of course I hit the ground really
paralyzed.
Exactly, and I hit the ground really hard once, really hard. And she said, now hit it once really hard again. And I did, and now I'm really scared. And she said, now hit the ground once really, and I hit it again. And she said, great, now hit the horse once correctly with the whip.
Oh, God.
And I hit the horse with the end of the whip, and they went off in the forehand. And then she said, now get back on the carriage. And I got on, and she very quietly said to me, she said, you use a whip once, you use it correctly, and you put it away. You don't tap, 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 tap.
No.
She said, you don't annoy a horse with it.
No.
You use it once, use it correctly, and you put it away. And I'm going to tell you something. That stuck with me all the time. There's no annoying a horse with a whip. If you need to use it at all, you know, maybe you're against it, it's fine, but use it once, use it correctly, and put it away. That was a lesson.
That was where Larry Poulin got into trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of harness, and if they're not where they need to be, especially in an obstacle, you can get in trouble. And so she had a very good point. Use it
I
once,
went
use it
out to
correctly, and put it away.
Yeah, I went out to TD event in Oregon or Washington State, and I was TD, and I think Natasha Grigg was head of the jury, or so she was judge. And one of your jobs of TD is to make sure that the horses aren't being mistreated or something not correct. So I was going around the course and just checking hazards and all, and somebody came up to me and said, "Quick, we need you." I said, "What's up?" And they said, "There's somebody beating a pony." And so I went, and they were able to take me up on a hill, a little bit of a hill, where this pony was going to be coming by. And sure enough, she was using the whip. Now, she was using it incorrectly, but she was hitting the pony. And I had to pull her up. I had waited a bit until I saw her do it, whatever, and I had to pull her up, and then I had to call Natasha to back me up on it. This woman was unbelievably furious. She didn't understand at all. Now, Larry got called at a couple of events because the way he used to whip his horses, it looked like he was hitting them hard, but he wasn't.
Right.
But the impression he gave, and so when you have the public coming to watch an event, and they say, "This is a cruel sport, we're going to report you.
Right.
This sport's going to be closed down."
Right, yeah.
It happened at two. I remember one was at Gladstone in New Jersey, and I think one of the others, I'm not sure what the other one was, but it was the impression, and you don't do any good tapping as you just
No, it just looks like you're hitting, hitting.
It's like an annoying fly on
Exactly.
just.
And if Mrs. Peary told you to do something, she could do it herself. So it wasn't like somebody trying to teach you something that didn't have the capability.
Right.
I see a lot of people getting lessons from people that the person teaching doesn't have the capability to do what they're telling you to do. It might be the right thing, but she would gallop her own racehorses.
Yeah, I don't know where she got her carriage training.
Yeah, but she would gallop. If she told you to do something,
Yeah.
she was more than capable of doing it herself.
Yeah.
She didn't like one day the way one of the racehorses was being galloped, and the person came back with a reason, and well, he won't do that. He won't listen, and you can't get him to do that. You can't get him to do this, and boy, if she wasn't in that tack the next morning with us, and that horse did what she asked him with no question, just went right along, and so. You had to have a lot of respect for her. As difficult as she could be, and she was tough.
She did a wonderful thing, Susan.
Yeah.
I don't think you were with us. And Susan, I don't think you were. When she was, I'm sure, because you don't cook really. So she did a cooking course. She was raising money to go to one of the championships way back.
She was a brilliant cook.
81 or 80.
Desserts.
Het knew in 82. So it was.
She wrote a book.
And so she, cookbook. So she did a cooking class over at her house. It was a 6-week course, one night a week, and there were about 8 of us. I know Ann Gutchell was there. I know Tricia was there. I don't remember. Holly, I'm sure, was there. Myself, I don't remember who else. And so she'd have all the preparation, and one night, most of them were desserts because that was her specialty, really, or desserts. And so we'd make these incredible desserts, and some of them would take 45 minutes in the oven, and then you bring it out and you serve it. So while that one went in the oven, she had already made one that day that was ready for us, the 8 of us, to sit and eat the dessert. And she'd gone down to Bobby's wine cellar, which was immense, I guess, and brought up the best. I don't care what he says, let's have this one tonight. And she'd bring up this big bottle of either red or white, whatever went with the dessert. And we would sit there and eat this incredible dessert, a second one that she'd made.
She was a brilliant photographer.
Yeah, she was a very good photographer.
She had job opportunities with National Geographic. Brilliant photographer.
Yeah.
So, when you, a lot of people, she was difficult to work for.
She was very difficult,
but you know what?
Yeah.
You learned a lot if you took advantage of the difficulty, you know.
And it was hard to believe that she grew up in New York City. I mean, granted, she was on the ranch or something, but she still was a city girl, which, you know, a lot of people forget. But she was,
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, there are not too many jobs that you take that you get to live at Windsor Castle.
No.
So.
Yeah.
It was, it's pretty impressive, and she was the first woman to do that.
yeah, that's right.
And that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So.
No, she was well liked in that field.
She sure was.
I wasn't sure, I'm not sure she wasn't the first woman competing in four in hand.
Yes.
She was.
I
Yes.
think she was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't think that was Hetlow in 82. I think it was maybe something in 80.
We went in 86 to the Worlds
That's right.
in 86, but I think she had competed before that.
I knew she had because this thing I'm saying Hetlow in 82, Chip was working for,
Yeah.
Kelly, and
Yeah, Kelly and,
Kelly and
was,
Liz.
that was the crew right before Ferial and I.
Right. And this Hetlow was someplace in Holland because we went over to it. Joy and I went. Chip was grooming for her, and that's what we were making these desserts for. You know, raising money. And that was a beautiful event. But I think there was another woman at that one, so she must have been the first before that. But it was fun times. Jack Seabrook was a magnificent team driver who Seabrook Farms down in New Jersey had a big team of grays, big
I
grays.
can't seem to get this to
Yeah,
come
he
up.
came up
I
a
really
couple
want it to
times.
come up.
And a guy called Doug Camera who was fairly difficult. We went down and drove. Actually, Charlie and I did two movies. One was, oh God, I'll never forget it. One was on the top of Beacon Hill, and it was the movie. Who was the actor who was a rider and had the accident?
Christopher Reeves.
Thank you,
Well,
Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
Christopher Reeves had a movie that was filmed. A lot of it was filmed on Beacon Hill. It was old 18th century or whatever, 19th century, because we were all in old century clothes. And so we got up there the hill and we got the two horses. First of all, they didn't want paint, so I don't know how they wanted two white horses and nobody, we said we'd go, but they're spotted, so I'm not quite sure what they did with about the spots. But we got up there and we're on the hill and Christopher Reeves is coming out a door and he's gonna get on the carriage and we're gonna take him down the hill or whatever. And so the producer, or whoever comes and says to Charlie, could you just move forward 2 inches? And Charlie, even with two horses, Charlie looked at him and said, excuse me? He said, I need you to move 2 inches. And Charlie said, it can't be done. It'll either be 6 or I stay where I am. Oh, the man said, okay, stay where you are. I mean, can you imagine to get 2 horses standing the way they should stand,
Yeah.
asking them to move 2 inches? And then we all went down to Google's and we did a movie in Newport where they put sand down on all the, not all, about 3 or 4 streets along the old houses because we were back in that era. And so they had us in costume. And so we drove the roads that are normally tarmac. They had piles and piles of sand to make it look all time. When there were 3 or 4 of us that did that, 2 or 3 of us maybe. But you could, and we drove Mount Desert a lot. Mount Desert, that was fun. In that barn, that's a fun thing any of you should do with your horses to ride. It's a great thing to go up there and ride up in that park.
Yeah.
Beautiful carriage trails. And
Actually, Christopher Reeve's brother, Brock, is on our board at Windrush.
He's an amazing rider.
Yeah, he lives in Cambridge.
Were they a New England family?
No, I think they pulled it
Oh.
up. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They just had a special on has anybody seen that special? I
On
didn't
him?
watch it. Yeah, it was just on.
Saw clips of it, but didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Other one,
For
his
Christopher
son
Reeves.
went back and went with the son of the man that his father went out to see the whales.
Oh, I just saw the portion of it where they had video clip of him riding and then the accident and then all the history and all of it, so.
Well, they say he was overmounted, badly overmounted.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
and not with anybody else's fault but his own, as I understand. He wanted to be on that, he wanted that horse. Did you find it?
No,
Okay.
you know,